Hello, and welcome to this episode of Friendship, Wellness, and Wisdom with your host, Heather. And
Rachel,
this week is our seventh episode. We are going to talk about self talk, negative self talk, and positive self talk, and how it affects our mind, body, and spirit. So, um, before we get started, we want to ask you if you like the show, press the little like button, share, put it on your
subscribe,
subscribe, put it on your favorites, tell your friends, and
hit the bell for notifications.
and then also let us know what you're thinking. We
Would love to hear from you.
Yes, totally. So let's get started.
All right, diving right in. So, all right, Heather, I feel like you put a lot into this. You had so much prepared for this. You've got the outline. So, I'm going to have you kind of take it away, and I will jump in here and there
Okay.
with some of the facts that I have, have looked up in support of what we're talking about here.
Okay.
But
Cool.
it's
Yeah.
take it away.
Ta-da. So we're talking about negative and positive self-talk, which for me works through a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. When we talk about fixed mindset, we're talking about something that is not wavered, right? We believe something or we stay steadfast on something, and it's very fixed, and there's no way to alter where we are. Even though it says it's fixed, nothing is really truly fixed, right? Our mind is actually super pliable, and we can just as easy as we could do negative self-talk, we could do positive self-talk to change things up. So when we look at the negative self-talk, we're looking at things that we say to ourselves totally subconsciously, totally not even to be detrimental or to be mean to ourselves or whatever. Sometimes you'll drop something and you'll be like, oh my God, I can't hold anything. I'm so clumsy.
It's
Or,
habit. Like
yeah,
we get in the habit
yes,
of talking this way, and we don't often notice it.
right. And then like you'll be doing something and you'll be like, oh man, I should have known that. I'm so stupid or whatever. And truly that becomes when you said it becomes a habit, it truly does become a habit. It becomes your pattern. It becomes your programming.
Yes.
And it becomes a very easy way to just kind of hand that particular verbiage over and then just be okay, this is how it's going to be. And that's very fixed. And in a fixed mindset, there's no growth, right? And so
No.
that's what this episode's about. So we want to talk about negative mindset on a the cognitive effect of negative mindset. It limits your beliefs. It's self-doubt. It's fear of failure, avoidance of challenges, avoidance of growth and learning. And then it puts you in this total survival mode, which is fight, flight, or freeze. So I'm going to go to you because we talked about what you learned about the brain and what that looks
Yeah.
like.
So basically, when you use negative self talk repeatedly, and this basically comes from a book I just listened to on audiobooks, too, actually. I listened to What to Say When You Talk to Yourself and then Negative Self Talk and How to Change It, both by Shad Helmstetter. Um, so when you constantly use negative self talk, it lights up like the right frontal cortex. So, and basically, what that does is that part of your brain puts you into fight or flight, and it literally halts you from taking action. So if you want to do something a lot of times and you just can't seem to get yourself to do it, or you get stuck or you freeze, even when it's something like you really want to do, that's your brain just
Mhm.
kind of stopping you in your tracks. And
Right.
this negative pattern, this negative self-talk can literally stop you from physically doing
Right.
the things that you want to do,
It's
which I found like pretty profound. Like, luckily,
yeah.
and we are going to get to that, when you use positive self talk,
Uh-huh.
that that effect can be changed. It affects the left frontal cortex, and it actually puts you into action, and it's problem solving, and that's where you move forward from.
So the great part about our brain is, like, when you look at our brain, you look at our brain like it's a house, right? And we have the upstairs brain and we have the downstairs brain. And what winds up happening when we are in an abusive situation, and when you negative self-talk, you are in an abusive situation in that moment because you're abusing yourself.
You're
Um,
verbally abusing yourself. Yeah.
and so the reality is your brain, it's to keep you safe. That's what your brain does. It's to keep you safe. And sometimes your brain tells you negative things to keep you safe. Like, don't go over there, it's dangerous. Don't do that, it's dangerous. Or you're not smart enough to do that. Don't do that. But the reality is, if you can if you can build staircases in your brain from the base of the brain to the upstairs, and then you can go from the right and left brain, build these bridges from the right and the left brain, you can create all these great developments. So when you self-talk, negative self-talk leaves you in the lower part of the brain, in that fight or flight or freeze area of the brain.
It's very primal.
Yes, yes. And and our brain is to keep us safe. That I mean, it that's what it's there for, but it also holds us back, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, well, here's another great analogy I had heard. Um, and I think this was from the tapping solution when I was
Mhm.
doing that. So your brain is taught to keep you afraid because way back when, like in caveman days, if you heard a rustling, it was very likely that there was a predator there.
Mhm.
So anyone who ignored that fear took a much bigger risk going out into the woods to go do whatever they were going to do
Right.
about getting eaten by, tigers or
Yeah.
whatever was going to go on. So it literally did keep you safe because you needed to know that, like, if there was a rustling sound in the bushes, it was more than likely something that could eat you. Nowadays, if you hear a rustling in the bushes, it's more than likely the wind or a squirrel.
Yeah. Right.
So, but our brains have not gotten past that. And the other thing is we're also, even in the best conditions,
Mhm.
our brains, basically 70% of our programming, like what we pick up from our environment, even if you grow up in the most nurturing environment, your brain is picking up at least 77% of like negative programming,
Right.
or things that tell you what you can't
Right.
or should not do. And again, in an attempt to keep you safe, and a lot of times not even knowing it, us as parents and our parents before told you shouldn't do stuff, you couldn't do stuff, mainly because they wanted to keep you safe, not saying, oh yeah, you really shouldn't do this because you're not smart enough or you're not good
Right.
enough. But a lot of times that's what we hear, that's what we take in, and that's what we condition ourselves to believe.
Right. Right.
So
So not only cognitively does negative self-talk um put, those put us in that fight or flight or freeze mode, but it also causes physical effects. It causes our stress levels to increase, and the production of cortisol. So it's not even like, well, negative self-talk, you're talking yourself into something or whatever. It actually gives you a physical issue. right? And so it also breaks down your immune system, so your immune functions, and then that affects your physical health. Okay. And then on top of that, it affects you emotionally. It decreases your resilience and your motivation. And then it also makes you just not as receptive to others. So talk that comes across in your verbiage, in your attitude, in your how you present yourself to people. That's what I was trying to say. How you present yourself,
There you
how,
go.
how people physically see you comes across when you negative self-talk yourself. Okay. Yay. No
Yay, all right,
tangent.
she got that out there. Okay, so
Yay.
basically, I'm just going to break this down a little further, make sure I'm clearly understanding. So basically, like people pick up on your vibe. And if
Yes.
you have a negative vibe, a lot of times you don't even hear it. You're saying these things in your head, you're not hearing it come out that way. But a lot of it is still coming out like when you're speaking to other people, like they're going to get that presentation. You're maybe not saying the same words that you say to yourself
Hmm.
in your head, but it does come across like in your language as you speak to other people. And one of the things to always know is no matter what you say, your brain is always listening.
Yes.
And it doesn't know the difference between joking around about something, sarcasm,
Hmm.
what kind of slant you put on things. So the more you repeat these things, whether you think you don't mean it or not, your brain is going to take it as true and it's going to find a way
Hmm.
to make it your reality.
Right. And it also affects how you carry yourself.
Of
Like,
course.
sitting up straight, slouching over, like the and on top of that, when you say things out loud, people treat you as such. So if you tell somebody, "Oh, don't give me that. I'm too stupid to do that." They're like, "Oh, okay."
Well, yes, that's one of the other things. Like you teach other people how to treat you. Um,
Yes.
is actually so if you wanted to be, you want to be treated a certain way, you need to act
Right.
basically the way you want to be treated for other people to see that.
Right.
So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so we can move on to positive self-talk. Yay!
yay!
Which who wouldn't love positive self-talk, right? And so positive self-talk, cognitive positive self-talk embraces challenges and opportunities. They see opportunities. So when you are positive self-talking, you can see opportunities that you may have overlooked prior to your positive self-talk experience, right?
And absolutely, because it's lighting up that part of your brain when you are
Yes.
in that mode and you're using that positive self talk. So now you're like lighting up the left side and it's problem solving and you're physically getting put into act like, okay, we're going to
Yeah.
go do this.
Things are starting to
So it
fire.
really, yeah, it
They
really makes
fire.
the difference. Like it's going to change like how you act.
Right. Right. And so it also it changes your view of failure, right? So
Yes,
Will
that's a good
Smith
point.
says something about fail forward. Have you ever heard him say that?
No,
Fail
actually.
forward. And he
Okay.
says anytime you're failing, you're failing forward. You're failing because you're learning something to move forward. Right?
Well, yeah, you
So
can't fail. You can't fail if you don't take a chance. And we
right,
obviously know that negative
exactly.
self-talk is going to keep you
Right,
from moving into action.
right,
So you can only and it's not really a failure. You only fail if you give up. So you failed because you tried. You went
right,
out there and now you learned what not to do to make it work. So
right.
now you can
And
fail forward
so
and try again. I get it.
so people that positive self-talk, they see a failure as a learning experience. What can I learn from this?
Hmm.
And that in that alone is growth. Physically, it reduces stress, improves overall health. It enhances the immune system and the vital organs, which is totally huge, right? It's kind of
Absolutely.
like when you are talking. have you ever heard people talk to their plants and then their plants thrive,
Of course.
right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and
a good analogy. I like that.
yeah, and so when you talk to yourself lovingly, you thrive. Your cells thrive, your organs thrive, you thrive. Okay. And then emotional well-being, it increases your resilience and your optimism, and then it gives you a greater sense of fulfillment and purpose. So as we want to grow as human beings, we have to look at things that we do with love and compassion. We talk about this in every show, right? Leading with
Yeah.
love and compassion, and being mindful in what we're doing, and being able to talk to yourself in a love and compassionate way is being super mindful. And granted, we all self-talk. We all do negative self-talk. I don't care who you are, at one point in your being, you have negative self-talk. It just happens. And there's a great quote, and it's a woman that wrote a book called Self-Talk Workout, I believe it is.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
I just started listening to that.
oh, okay. And she talks about one of her clients that would do the love kindness meditation.
Mhm.
And she was like, nothing is happening. I'm doing this. Nothing works. It's not working, blah, blah, blah. And finally, she was like, I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm going to talk myself into it and whatever. And she found herself, she dropped a dish and it shattered. And she was like, oh my God, you are so clumsy. And then she followed it up with, "And I still love you."
Aw.
And the fact of the matter is, then she said to her, she was like, "And I still love you." She was like, "That was just like, I just felt love and compassion as I was cleaning up this mess." And
Mhm.
so it's very important that we help ourselves, you know, ourselves some gratitude, show ourselves some love and compassion, because without that, you can't thrive, right? We're beings that need that. We need that from each other, and we need that from ourselves.
Absolutely. And I think too, one of the best ways to look at things is anytime I feel like I need something, I'm like, all right, I don't need someone else to give it to me. So what could I do? Like, what would I want someone to tell me?
Right.
Like if I was feeling like this, like what is the most like, if I was like the perfect nurturer,
Mhm.
right? Or even what do I want to hear like from anyone at
Yeah.
this point, like after something has happened? Like I want to be told that it's okay. It's just a mistake. Nothing really terrible. It's not earth shattering. It's not gonna end the
Mhm.
world. And here are all the things that you can do to move on, to move forward, to like,
Right.
and to make a change when you want to. And I try to remind myself that all the time.
So, I can bring it back to when I was a different me. And when I was a different me, I did a lot of negative self-talk. And I got to a point in my life that I decided I wouldn't say the things to my son,
Yeah.
or my best friend, or my mom, or whoever. I would never say those things to another human being. Why would I say them to myself? And so I sat down and I wrote myself a letter with all my negative self-talk, and I told you to do this exercise. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wrote myself a letter with all my negative self-talk, and crossed out my name at the top, and looked at myself in the mirror, and I decided to read it to the person I love the most in the world at that moment. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, no, it's right. It's hard to like think about when you think about it that way.
Yes.
Like you're like, what am I doing to myself? I can't possibly like what good can come out of this?
Right. We
Um
would never say those things to other people.
no, and because no good comes out of it, all
No.
it does is hurt feelings and it shuts If you said it to anyone else, what it would do, it would shut them down and they would walk away and nothing else would go in. So the same thing
Right.
is happening to you. But
Right.
I do want to I want to bring up this point because we did get into the positive end of things. The
Right.
great part about all of this is no matter how long you have been practicing negative self-talk, no matter how
Yeah.
long like you've been programmed to believe these things, you can change it. So the great part of our brains is the neuroplasticity, the ability to change and to reprogram. Our brains believe whatever they're told the most. So, whatever input we keep getting, whether it's from what we tell ourselves or from the world around us, our brain is going to make it true if it hears the same thing over
Right.
and over again.
Right.
So, if you want to make a change, you want to start putting in the programming that you want over and over again.
Right.
And one of the first steps to doing that is being aware of your negative self-talk, or even just being aware of your self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to what you're saying when the voice is going on in your head. Listen to what you're saying when you're talking to other people. Like sometimes you won't even realize that you're saying, "Oh, I know this might be a problem, but," or "I'm sorry, I don't want to bother you," or "Oh, I'm so clumsy. Why did,"
Mm-hmm.
you need to catch yourself when you're doing that, and you can reframe anything and make it positive.
Right.
So if you make a mistake, instead of saying, "Oh my God, that was so stupid. I'm so stupid. How could I make such a dumb mistake?" You could very easily change that to, "Oh, I can't believe I just did that. I'm smarter than that.
Yes.
What a silly mistake."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's that like, it is that simple, but you do need to repeat in order to
Mm-hmm.
make it a habit. The great
Right.
thing is if you make it a habit, in as little as like 3 weeks, you can actually start to see a difference. And again, this is coming from, I'm not a
Yeah.
neuroscientist. I basically, this is based off the books that I read and honestly, like how I know that I feel
Mm-hmm.
when I talk negatively to myself
Right.
and when I talk positively to myself. And it's a great experiment if you want to,
Yeah.
put it into action. Like I challenge you, like go out there, try to prove me wrong. Like just what do you have to lose? You're going to say some nice things to yourself, and you know what? I'm not going to feel bad about challenging you to do that. So
Right.
you go for it. Like
And it's not just the talk, it's the attitude behind the talk. And with the repetitive talking, like Rachel was saying, you change your attitude with the repetitive talking. That's what changes the programming, not just the words themselves, but you don't you don't understand what you're doing until you're aware that the light switch has turned, right? Or somebody has flipped the switch. Or my grandmother used to say, it's like sitting in a dark room and somebody pulled the shade, let the light in. And then you're like, oh my God, that's what that's all about.
but I
And
feel like
so,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh, so what I'm just picking back, I agree with you. Like you say it, say it, say it, and then feel the attitude behind it, feel the change of the shift of the emotion behind it. And then it really, once you can attach emotion to things, that's when they get really embedded in the body.
Absolutely. And I think with that too. So anytime you think something, so our thoughts are basically what create our emotions. So you
Hmm.
think something and then you have a feeling about like what you thought. Um, so if you kind of change and put a positive frame on what you're thinking or change how you're thinking about something,
Hmm.
it can change your emotions about
Right.
that thing. I mean, yourself, how you view life
Hmm.
in general. So it's that awareness again. We're always bringing it
Yes.
back to be
Awareness.
mindful, be aware,
Yeah.
like notice what you're doing, what you're saying, how you're doing it, and it makes a big difference. You can change if you're aware of something, then you know what you can do to make that change.
So we'll move on to an exercise that you can try. If if you're so
Client.
inclined to do. So the one exercise I was telling Rachel that I do every day, I do it when I teach yoga. And so I do the LKM, which is love, kindness, meditation. And so when all of my students are in what we call Shavasana, which is their rest pose at the end of yoga, I sit up in the front of the room and I meditate. While they're in their Shavasana, they're in there for anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes. And so I go through and I make my statements, and I start with myself. So my statement for myself is, may I be well today. May I be happy today. May I be safe today. May I be peaceful today. And then I extend it to my room. Then I extend it to the neighborhood that I'm in. Then I extend it to the town, the state, the world. Like, I actually jot it out to the world. Now, I'm not telling you to do that every day, but what I am challenging you is, could you think of something that you could just wake up, or when you feel the negative self-talk coming on, could you just think to yourself, you know what? Maybe it's doesn't have to be like this huge elaborate thing. It could just be, may I be well today. May I be happy today. May I be peaceful today. May I be safe today. And once you start changing yourself, it's contagious. You change others. So that's really the thought that we have about self-talk. It really is in your hands to control. And sometimes it's super hard. It's super hard to change your self talk when you don't feel that you can, but you can. And we believe in you.
Absolutely. So I know, like, so that's your practice and what you like to do. And also know, like, if you want to look up how to do loving kindness meditation, you can go on to Spotify, YouTube, put
Hmm.
that in there, and they'll give you like a guided meditation to follow. One simple little practice that I like to do when I catch myself, like, just being kind of mean and ugly to myself, is I'll stop and I'm like, all right, how can I change this? Like,
Hmm.
this is what happened. Like, what's, how can I reframe this? Like, how can I literally just change what I just said to myself? And a lot of times that's enough. That's it. Like, because you asked your brain a question,
Hmm.
it's, guess what? It's going to give you an answer. So you're like,
Right.
you know what? How can I put a positive spin on this? And if you stop and you ask yourself that and you wait for the answer, your brain will tell you how to put a positive spin on anything. It will answer the questions that you have, especially like anything that you have like readily available to you. Like,
Yes.
it might not give you, the equations to solve the mysteries of the universe, but it will tell you the answer of, like, if you say, why am I so stupid? Your brain will tell you why you're so stupid. But
Hmm.
if you ask your brain, like, what are my best qualities? It's going to tell you. So if you say, how can I look at this in a positive light? The answer will come to you. Like, your brain is going to feed it right to you. So that's like, for me, that's my
Yes.
simple go-to
I
is
call
just,
it I call it fact finding.
yeah,
Right? Whenever you say something and you're like, "Wait, why did I say that?" Your brain's like, "Oh, this is why you said it." It's fact finding. Your
yeah.
brain is there to fact find.
You gave it a task and now
Yes.
it's going to fulfill that task. So
Yep.
if you, again, you ask why bad things always happen to you, your brain will answer that question. But
Yes.
if you ask, what are my best qualities, or how, like, how can I make this better, even if it's not
Mhm.
the best answer and it is not like the greatest fix, your brain will scramble to tell you all the ways that you can make it better, and all the reasons why, you're a great person, and all the reasons why you deserve to have the best. You just have to ask those questions and look at it in that light, and
Mhm.
it's all there. It's like all available to you. It's just a matter of taking the time to notice what you're doing and to change it.
Yep. Yep.
But I'm sorry. I have to, because I want to put this little bit of personal into this. Both of us
Hmm.
have been through so many challenges
Yes.
in our lives.
Yes.
And we're passionate about this kind of stuff because we went through all the negative self talk and we
Hmm.
did all of these things and we were sick and we
Yes.
were hurt and
Very.
we had our problems. And instead of just dealing with that and feeling sorry for ourselves,
Hmm.
we decided that we needed to do something about it and that was not what our lives were going to be.
No.
So we took the time to learn how to do this stuff because we care about ourselves and we care about other people.
Yes.
So this is coming from like a true place. It's not something we just decided to read about and to share with you. Like this is a part of what we have lived.
Hmm.
And we know that it works. And we know if you put the effort into it, you can make a change. And we'd love to see that. So
Yes.
that's my sharing.
That's my sharing. That's my sharing. Yay me. I want to tell
We
you
did
you're
great.
I want to tell you you're adorable. So, good job. Good job.
Yay!
Drop any comments down below. We appreciate you.
Yeah, we'd really love to hear what
We
you think.
absolutely love that you've been so patient with us and you tune in.
Having so much fun, so come have fun with us.
Yes, totally. And we will see you next time. Bye.